Tonight from battleground British Columbia, the fierce fights for votes in the final stretch. What's driving voters in some of the tightest races in the country?
I think the future of the NDP is at stake here. Not only Mr. Singh's own seat, but a lot of his colleagues.
And how the fate of two federal parties hangs in the balance. Where party leaders made a push and what they promised. Thousands line up to pay their final respects to the Pope. And who will represent Canada at the funeral? Plus, the Bay takes another massive hit. And a lesson in staying afloat.
We can navigate the stormy waters.
The captain's advice on dealing with the uncertainty from the U.S.
A little secret little club. We're so proud to be Canadian.
And what being Canadian means for a music legend who's become the pride of Victoria.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, reporting tonight from Victoria.
Good evening from the capital of Canada's westernmost province, which has some of the tightest races in the country, including many right here on Vancouver Island. The Canadian flag on the BC legislature, a symbol of patriotic pride during the trade war with the United States, a major issue for voters here. But so is affordability in a region of the country with some of the most expensive real estate in the world. Leading us off tonight is our BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson, and we are now in the final stretch of this campaign, the final days, and BC certainly shaping up to be an important and pivotal battleground, Andrew.
Yes, Omar, political scientists and pollsters are taking a close look at BC ridings long thought to be safe that are now suddenly up for grabs. And based on how BC votes, two leaders, Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May, could be in trouble in a province uniquely affected by Donald Trump's tariffs. At this Chemainus, BC mill, they're sawing logs and sweating bullets.
Not knowing if the tariff is on and off, the logistics of trying to get wood across the border has been brutal.
50,000 people in BC make their living in the forestry industry, an industry already in crisis. Now the tariff war is adding new urgency to adapt.
I'm off tomorrow to Vietnam and Cambodia and Malaysia to try and find new markets there as well. We have some existing markets. Can we improve them? It'll be tough, but you never know.
He says a reduction in government regulation is at the top of his federal election wish list in a province primed for change. Coming into this vote, a three-way split in BC, 14 Liberal seats, 14 Conservative, 12 NDP, plus 1 Green. But experts believe and polls show the NDP may be in trouble in Metro Vancouver, including Jagmeet Singh's Burnaby Central riding.
I think the future of the NDP is at stake here. And not only Mr. Singh's own seat, but a lot of his colleagues.
Mark Carney's Liberals and Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives hope to capitalize. On Vancouver Island, where 6 of 7 seats are currently orange, experts say the Liberals are polling better than they have in decades.
You have to go back at least 75 years, I think, to see this kind of response for the Liberals on the West Coast.
Also hanging in the balance, the future of Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May, the Greens' first ever elected MP in 2011.
Given that we really see this extreme level of polarization and if you like, a focusing of support on either the Liberals or the Conservatives, I do think, even in the case of Ms. May, we may see voters they're unwilling to vote for anyone but one of the two frontrunners.
Between Singh and May, it could be a humbling vote in British Columbia for the NDP and the Greens, or perhaps they defy the polls and hang on. Just a couple of the many storylines to watch across the country, Omar,
So
on
much
Monday night.
So much at stake, Andrew. Thank you so much for this tonight. In many of the ridings Andrew just touched on, a key question for voters is who can solve the housing crisis. CTV's Kathy Lee on a national issue that's especially pronounced here in BC and what the parties are promising.
It's a place where the mountains kiss the ocean. Vancouver's stunning vistas priceless, but the homes far from affordable.
Rent is upwards of about $3,200.
Corinne McKay says the high rent makes it impossible to save for a down payment on an overpriced home. Right now, she's staying put. To make the best of her situation, she's improved her place by adding a garden.
I'll put in the work to make sure it's nice and homey for me so it feels like it's my house, regardless of not owning it, but we pay definitely a lot to not own it.
Owning a home, still a goal for Cameron Louis. To do so, he needs to partner up with his brother.
You can't really afford anything on your own unless you're doing really well, which if you're someone like me or my age, it's, you have the odds stacked against you a little bit.
The issue is there's too many people looking for not enough homes.
The BC Real Estate Association reports that Greater Vancouver's benchmark price for a single detached home is $1.8 million, the highest in Canada.
Vancouver is very physically land constrained. We have a border, we have mountains, we have an ocean, so there's not a whole lot of building out that we can do.
The housing crisis is a countrywide problem and a top election issue. The NDP plans to spend billions on affordable housing. The Liberals aim to drop the GST for first-time buyers on new and renovated homes under $1 million, and the Conservatives will cut GST on new homes up to $1.3 million. This real estate agent suggests more can be done.
A smaller down payment, more policy around longer amortizations, maybe even some interest-free loans.
Despite the plans to improve affordability, for some, it might just be a dream in their dream city.
Yes, it is very disheartening.
Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says the country needs about 3.5 million additional housing units by 2030 to restore affordability. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Vancouver.
Let's bring in Nick Nanos now, Chief Data Scientist at Nanos Research. Nick, 43 seats up for grabs in this province, and based on the voters we spoke to today, they've talked about having to vote strategically. What shifts are you seeing, and what races are you watching most closely here?
You know, it's interesting, Omar, right now in the province of British Columbia, it's basically a dead heat. It's within the margin of error between the Conservatives and the Liberals. The kicker is that the Liberals are up 14 percentage points compared to the last election. The New Democrats down 13 percentage points. So what we're seeing is a collapse of the NDP and those voters switching over to the Liberals. And places like Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland in Vancouver are critical right now in terms of being in play in favor of the Liberals.
Now take us outside of British Columbia, just 5 days out. What is the national picture looking like?
Liberals are still in the driver's seat. They're at around 44% nationally, followed by the Conservatives at 39% and the NDP a distant third. But you know, the thing is the distribution of support for the Liberals really converts well into seats. For Pierre Poilievre, he not only has to close the gap, he has to somehow get ahead of the Liberals if he wants to have a chance to form a government.
All right, Nick, thanks as always for your insight. NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh faced questions in Edmonton today about his party getting knocked down in the polls, but the New Democrat leader insists the party can still get up off the mat.
Like I said, I don't hear any bell. You guys hear a bell? I heard the bell from the bike, but I don't hear a bell. This round's not over. This fight's not over. We're here fighting. This election's not over.
Mark Carney and the Liberals keeping their sights set here on the West Coast today in efforts to take more ground. CTV's Michael Couture is digging into their strategy.
The Liberal campaign is in BC, where Mark Carney and his party believe they can take some seats from both the NDP and Conservatives in this province. Now, to help in that effort, the Liberals are launching a new ad tomorrow that a source says is aimed at progressive voters and growing support. And CTV News has it exclusively tonight.
Our children should be able to dream about a positive future, not worry about an economic crisis.
It comes a day after Melanie Joly asked supporters for a Liberal majority government before a rally in Quebec. Leader Mark Carney had asked for the same in the first week of the campaign, but has since called for a strong mandate to take on U.S. President Donald Trump. Today, Carney was asked about what kind of government is necessary in Ottawa.
Are you asking for a majority government?
I'm asking for a series of single votes from Canadians for a Liberal Party that is determined to build the country if we are given that honor.
Now, Carney did say it's important that Canada has a strong government with a clear mandate to face Trump, but he still wouldn't say he wants a majority. Michael Couture, CTV News, Surrey, BC.
The Conservatives putting a focus today on dealing with homelessness. CTV's Judy Trin was there for Pierre Poilievre's announcement and breaks it down for us.
Backed by the endorsements of 3 police unions, including the country's largest municipal force, Toronto Police, Pierre Poilievre says he wants to give law enforcement more power to dismantle homeless encampments. He wants to change the criminal code to allow officers to charge people who have set up structures or tents in parks and neighborhoods.
Our public spaces have become a breeding grounds for addiction, violence, human trafficking, and crime.
Poilievre was also asked about the costing of his platform, which uses projected economic growth to calculate revenue.
When will you have the budget balanced?
You mean the Liberal deficit?
Reporters asked if that was fiscally responsible, given that Donald Trump's trade war could push Canada into a recession. He deflected.
Mark Carney says he wants to keep all of the spending that Justin Trudeau planned and then stack $130 billion more spending on top of that.
What Poilievre didn't say is that the Conservative platform promises will also add more than $100 billion to the national debt. Judy Trin, CTV News, Toronto.
Donald Trump injected himself again into Canadian politics today, repeating his 51st state rhetoric and threatening to raise auto tariffs.
I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars. When we put tariffs on, all we're doing is we're saying we don't want your cars, in all due respect. I have spoken to the current Prime Minister. He was very, very nice, I will say. Very nice. We had a couple of very nice conversations, very good. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to get involved in their election.
CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Cabellis joins me now from Ottawa. And Vashi, quite the development. How could this impact the vote in the final days?
Hi, Omar. It's kind of a super interesting curveball at this point in the campaign. If you think back to the first half of this campaign, Donald Trump was top of mind in every headline. But that changed as Trump stopped taking such direct aim at Canada, particularly over the last half of the campaign, allowing for other issues like more generally change from the last 10 years, as well as cost of living issues to rise in prominence. Whether Donald Trump invoking Carney's name, invoking the threat of auto tariffs again changes that calculation. I think all I can say for sure is that the Liberals, I think it's fair to say, hope that is the case. The Conservatives will continue to hope that Canadians head into the ballot box on Monday thinking more about change than anything else. Omar?
All right, Vashi, appreciate this. Thank you. Turning to other news now, Governor General Mary Simon, not the Prime Minister, will be the one representing Canada at the funeral for Pope Francis on Saturday. Thousands from across the globe have already flocked to the Vatican for public viewing of the late pontiff. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin is there and has more on the outpouring of grief.
A procession through St. Peter's Square, retracing some of the same route Pope Francis traveled just hours before his passing. Now his final journey from Casa St. Marta to St. Peter's Basilica, accompanied by cardinals and the Swiss Papal Guard. Tens of thousands crowded the square to witness the moment. Among them Brandon Figueroa, a missionary in Bulgaria.
I'm very happy to say goodbye or see you later, Pope Francis, because I learned a lot of things from him.
Among the first to pay their respects to the Pope, lying in state in this simple wooden coffin near ground level, not on a pedestal, were members of the clergy. I was very emotional because of the great silence in the basilica. It took me closer to him, says Sister Catarina from Brazil. But others too, including some of other faiths, stood in line for more than 5 hours.
It's incredible. When you see it in the television, you also don't believe that it's so as it is, and so many people.
Security has been stepped up and preparations are underway for the funeral Saturday, a moment of tradition and rituals but simplified in accordance with the Pope's wishes. Cardinals from around the world have gathered, including Marc Ouellet from Quebec, who now lives in Rome. Ouellet said he admired Pope Francis for his humility, bravery, and his missionary spirit, something many others here too have come to praise. The public viewing will continue until Friday night, and at that time the casket will be sealed in preparation for the funeral. Omar.
CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin in Vatican City tonight. Coming up.
Now it's time that we have a conversation about what is consent to sexual activity in hockey.
what the jury in the sexual assault trial of 5 former world champions heard in court today. Plus, the Bay loses another critical lifeline. New details revealed today in a London, Ontario courtroom in the sexual assault trial of 5 former Canadian junior hockey players. CTV's Adrian Gabriel now with what unfolded in court.
With the weight of this day etched on each of their faces, 5 former world junior champions entered court one by one.
Now it's time that we have a conversation about what is consent to sexual activity in hockey.
With the jury of 11 women and 3 men listening intently, Crown Prosecutor Heather Donkers began her opening remarks by painting a, quote, roadmap of events that will be challenged during this trial. To protect her identity, we can only refer to the alleged victim as EM. Donkers told the jury this case is about whether EM voluntarily agreed to engage in each and every instance of sexual touching that took place, going on to claim that the defendants took no steps to ensure there was affirmative consent when they touched her. Instead, they just did what they wanted.
Just because you consented to some sexual activity with some individuals does not mean that you consented to all sexual activities with all individuals who may be around.
The jury will hear that EM drank approximately 8 drinks on the evening she met some members of the 2018 gold medal team at this London, Ontario bar. That she went back to this hotel with player Michael McLeod and had consensual sex. The Crown says McLeod then sent a group text message inviting teammates to the room. EM alleges that afterwards, 7 others entered the hotel room and, quote, directed, manipulated, and intimidated her into remaining in the room. Continual consent in those hours will now be closely scrutinized.
You have autonomy over your body, and you get to make those decisions about what you're going to engage in, when and with who, in an ongoing way.
Former Team Canada captain Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Carter Hart, McLeod, and Alex Fermenton have each been charged with sexual assault. McLeod is also facing 1 charge of being party to the offense.
This afternoon, we were expecting a London police detective to continue with the trial's initial testimony, though the judge dismissed the jury early, saying something happened over the lunch hour that she needs to think about and discuss with the other lawyers. Court is scheduled to resume tomorrow. Omar.
Adrian Gabriel in London, Ontario tonight. Adrian, thank you. Still ahead. Which Canadian city is getting a brand new professional women's hockey team? A new court filing says Hudson Bay will start liquidating all of its remaining stores. The documents say the company will start selling off merchandise on Friday at the 6 stores that had previously been spared. One company official is saying the move was made because there's a low probability it will find a buyer for the remaining locations. Rumors of a new hockey team coming to Canada were finally confirmed today.
We are so excited because right here in Vancouver, we got a team!
A lot of excitement. The Professional Women's Hockey League has announced a new franchise that will call Vancouver home. The yet-to-be-named team will play at the historic Pacific Coliseum, the former home of the Vancouver Canucks. The puck drops for the new team next season. And still ahead, how voters in Victoria are finding the right blend of optimism to navigate through troubling waters. Victoria is rich in culture, steeped in history, and blessed with stunning natural landscapes. One of Canada's oldest cities, it was named after the British Queen. So we paid a visit to a place founded by a man who once served her tea to get the pulse of voters.
We've got the number 10 blend here. It's the 10th blend John Murchie created in 1894.
At Canada's oldest tea company, almost as old as the country itself, customers these days aren't just asking about the blends.
I will regularly walk into retail and see someone looking at a box and, do you have any questions about the teas? Oh, well, I'm just making sure this is a Canadian product.
The raw product is from abroad. The processing is done entirely in BC. And Alan Booz says he's seen a surge in customers staying loyal to domestic products. But the brewing challenges and U.S. headwinds are top of mind for him. Are you at all nervous?
Absolutely. That's always a fear. And tariff, the whole international trade war has been a difficult couple of months. Everything's come at a bit of a shock. You know, every day it's a new adventure.
Michael?
Omar.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Welcome aboard
Good to
Victoria
see you
Harbour
too.
Ferries.
For Michael Conde, too, the former lawyer turned water taxi captain is used to navigating rough waters. But in Victoria, where many Canadians choose to retire, there's concern about the impact of the turbulent financial markets on savings.
You just have to hope that what goes down goes back up again. But yeah, it's clearly it is a very much on people's mind.
As we near the end of our journey with Michael, we see the Clipper coming in from Seattle to Victoria's harbor. Far fewer passengers on the vessel going in the other direction.
We've seen about a 30% decrease in the travelers which originate in Canada. Coming north, not quite so dramatic, about a 7 to 8% decrease in American travelers coming north.
The Americans arriving today not shy about sharing their love for Canada despite the tensions.
I mean, we love Canada.
Sorry. I'm like a serious sorry.
Why do you feel the need to apologize?
Because we are not treating our Canadian brethren with respect.
And despite the waves, Michael Conde says life has taught him an important lesson he uses to get through the tough times.
We get some very strong west winds blowing down this harbor here sometimes, kicking up the wave, whitecaps and so on. But one thing we know is that the waves are going to subside when the wind dies down. And so the wind, wherever it's blowing from right now, and I won't go too far down that metaphor, is going to sort of ease off and things will become calm again. But then I'm an optimist in life. So. Staying hopeful through the storm. We are giving the final word tonight to a hometown boy who remains the pride of this city. Victoria's David Foster, the legendary music producer, has won 16 Grammy Awards and worked with the likes of Celine Dion and Michael Bublé, building bridges through music at a time when the relationship with the U.S. is being tested. He spoke from Los Angeles about what it means for him to be Canadian.
Canada is such a great, I talk with my buddies, Michael Bublé and Paul Anka and Wayne Gretzky and others. We're so proud to be Canadian. We're like a little club down here, like a little secret little club. And we're so proud to be Canadian. And so, when things are tough, we feel it, I think, a lot, even though we live here. And I don't know. I just think Canada is the greatest place to come from, particularly me, born in Victoria. I know it's kind of a sappy answer, but I just wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been, my upbringing is what got me here.
Proud of his roots. And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday evening from Victoria. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.